All right. All right. We're back. We're going to come and either grace you again or annoy you, however you choose to see it. And this time we get to chat with Cheryl Walker,
Hmm.
who is a licensed sex therapist. So we're going to have some fun with Cheryl tonight. And Cheryl lives in
Hmm.
Atlanta.
Hmm.
She is the mother of four daughters and a wife, a sister, a Southern belle,
Hmm.
and, and a sexual being.
Yes, I am.
And she came to have fun.
Yes, it is.
So, Cheryl, why don't you start by telling us, and because we're relatively unstable, we're not
Hmm.
prepared as we should be. I'm
That's okay.
Tiffany, and
And I'm Andrea, never prepared. So there's that.
let's get on with it or get it on. So, sure. And by the way, I am in my closet because so much of what Cheryl talks about is coming out of the closet
Cause
with your
yes.
inhibitions and your desires. And I thought that was appropriate. Plus, my closet is really unstable. It ain't relatively unstable. Cheryl, tell us how you tell us about yourself and how you got into this work, and let's kick it.
Okay, so I do want to make one small clarification.
Yeah.
I am licensed as an associate counselor.
Okay.
I have to see maybe another 2 years before I'm like fully licensed. So I got to make sure there's a big difference
Okay.
with that, which basically means right now I cannot have my own practice, but once I'm fully licensed, I can have my own practice.
But you
That's
have the passion.
Oh my God, I've had the passion for years. So that's actually how I got into it. A little short story. So I undergrad at Hampton University for marketing. Decided within maybe 3 or 4 years, ooh, marketing, financial consultant, just realized that that probably wasn't my neck of the woods because I would actually get in more trouble talking to my clients versus actually selling them annuities and life insurance products and getting mutual funds for them. I just spent my entire session talking to my clients about their life. That should have been an inkling of where I was going, but I was young and naive. So anyway, fast forward, I had my first daughter. My husband and I decided, all right, I don't want to do this. I'm okay with being a stay-at-home mom. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 plus years, I believe.
God bless you and your ministry, girl.
It was a struggle. It was a beautiful struggle, but it was a struggle. But in that time though, I was, volunteering places. I very active in their classrooms. I was very my husband thought I was weird because every documentary, every book on sex, everything that had to do with sexuality, like I was in it. He was like, "Sweetie, you trying to tell me something? You're like, you are a freak and you don't want to say it." Like, no, I'm not. Like, you know me. If I wanted it, I would let you know. But I'm honestly interested in sex, like how it works out. But I never thought I could make a career out of it until fast forward about 4 or 5 years ago. I was getting my own work done. And the counselor asked me, "What is it that you like to do?" I was like, I like play dates. I like, birthday parties. I like vacationing. She was like, "No, like, what do you like to do? What's your passion?" I was like, "Sex, but not in that manner." like, I like, so I had to always have to like, let me bring it down. So she was like, "Play with that." No pun intended, but play with that and see and see what that looks like. And for me, it looked like, fast forward, I received my master's in clinical mental health. I continued to read more books on sexuality, more courses, more classes, to the point where it feeds into my certification, my pursuit of being a licensed certified sex therapist, because I've done most of the work. Now it's just putting it in terms of continuing education and X amount for the board of Georgia and all this other technical stuff. But I've done the experiential learning and living. So that's the fun part of actually merging what I've read, what I know, what I've learned, what I've studied, to what I went to school for, to the clinical aspect of it, to the point where it's a legitimate profession for me. So that brings me to sex therapy.
So I'm interested to know how do you work with couples, single people?
Both.
Okay. What am I? One of the things I thought of when I read through your blogs, I read through your website, which is all fascinating. And
Thank you.
you're a great writer, by the way.
Thank you.
How do you get men? I'm interested to know the male perspective and how you get men to like come to you, like a single man to come to you, or even a partnered man to initiate a consult with you.
So that's the interesting part, because without giving too much information on my clients, the men who engage me, they really are at their wits' end. Like they know like something has to change. I've tried this, I've tried that, and whether I'm losing my partners, whether I just don't feel like me, something's weird, I want to address that. So ironically enough, men are because ladies talk about, I think as women, we like to congregate and talk about sex and toys and orgasm, and it's all fun and games. But I think for a male, it's really sometimes demoralizing. And they want to try to fix it best they can because they feel like that's a big part of who they are. So they actually are a little bit more willing to actually come and see a sex therapist. Now, I do have to, again, you will have your serious men who want to come see me. And then you will have the men who have to explain that I'm a sex therapist, not a sex worker, not a sex surrogate. Nothing wrong with that, but don't expect any physical aspect of my services to come into play. That makes any sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because like we are so often told that like men don't like therapy and they don't want to be involved in therapy, but like when it comes to something that they feel is like literally, even though mental health outside of sex therapy is certainly a part of them, but like it's interesting that the sex is what makes them like, oh wait, I gotta see somebody about this, because this ain't right. Like what is going on? Like I could have all kind of other mental issues, but like when the sex is affected, that's when I draw the line and I got to see somebody. So that's really interesting. That's really interesting. Like
it's great, because that's where my classes and training with the clinical mental health part come, because they don't realize that sometimes it's like a vicious cycle. If they're depressed because they have, either premature or delayed ejaculation. Or if they can't ejaculate, they become depressed. And that depression leads to anxiety because they're anxious about trying to orgasm. And it's just a vicious cycle. So I think I make it a little bit more inviting to discuss potential mental health issues, but with something that they are actually more comfortable with, which is sex. If that makes any sense.
So that's like the segue into the rest of the, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Do you have a lot of success with men just kind of completing their treatment plan, or are they, because like I feel like as women we're like lifelong therapy seekers, but
yes,
but men are like, okay, I feel like I'm good, I'm out. Like, do you have success with them completing your treatment? Or
that's where I have to be real creative, because men are, yes, give me the solution and let me solve it and I'm done. And I don't really work that way. Most therapists don't either. It's a journey for me, it's a journey for them. So actually, I don't have a problem with men, because what I do is I incorporate some of the self-work with homework assignments. So I do give them a task, like, okay, complete this task. Why don't you try to do this, that, and the other? And what happens is that as they are completing their tasks, they have some insight about the mental aspects of their dysfunction or their issues. So it doesn't.
Hey, Sammy.
Yes. Hey, Sammy. Right on cue.
Right.
Always a pussy around. Say something.
And men know how to find them.
Exactly. Exactly. But for the most part, my men are the men that I do see, they're very they're very compliant, because once they start doing the work, they see like, oh, okay, I see where that makes sense. Where I see where if I my desire is not there because my motivation is not there. So they actually do go with the flow, so to speak, because I give them homework assessments or give them, particular tasks to do their own assessment.
Do you think,
I don't really have a problem.
Do you think that therapy that's relative to sexuality is I won't say more complex than when you're talking about overall mental health, but is it a harder code to crack with some people? Or is it just that by the time they get to you, they know they need to be open to help?
Well, it's twofold, because normally if you're depressed, or if you have, or if you're diagnosed with depression, if you're diagnosed with bipolar, if you're depressed with schizophrenia, like, you are quite open about that. There's so much shame and guilt associated with, whether it's a fetish, whether it's a desire, whether it's a lack of desire. There's so much shame and guilt with that it gives us a few more layers to pull back. Hi, Sammy. Gives us a few more. That's fine. It gives us a few more layers to peel back. So it's not as difficult or challenging as regular therapy work. The guilt and shame associated with it sometimes make it a little bit more. Have to dig a little bit deeper because people don't want to admit, like, whether it was sexual abuse. And sometimes this is what, I hate to bring up trauma, but sometimes with sexual abuse, your body may defy your emotions. So having people get past that, although you didn't ask for that, but your body may have responded physiologically in a way that you felt betrayed you, that doesn't mean that you enjoyed it. It just means your body responded to that. So trying to get people past those barriers may present a little bit more a test and say, hey, I think I have some psychotic stuff. Now believe me, personality disorders, that's a fun thing too. I don't want to poo-poo all the fun stuff with therapy, but definitely you have to get people to just let down their errors a little bit and say, yeah, that was some messed up stuff sexually that happened to me, and either I liked it or I don't. And then not always that forthcoming with that. So it presents a challenge at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just had to explain. So, Cheryl and I have talked literally 5 minutes before, and this is also some work that which is great why she's here, is because it's also work that I am currently working on in my own personal life. And I just feel like, speaking on the past traumas, and I'm not talking about serious criminal traumas, but in my experience, it's been how I processed my first time at 15 is still how I thought about that, even though I'm 38, is still in my mind. And I still am triggered by some of the same things that happened then that happen in my current relationships or current situationships or sexships, whatever you want to call them. And I was trying to explain that to somebody. And I was like, it's not so much that I'm still this 15-year-old that is still trying to get over something, but it's I'm at a point now where I'm understanding my patterns and I'm understanding my triggers, and I'm understanding that these things that because I'm used to those things, that feels normal to me. And I'm trying to get out of that cycle of that feeling normal to me and understanding what that means and how I've been carrying that trauma. And when I say trauma, I just mean basically I get triggered when I feel like there's an expectation of sex when I'm in a relationship. And if I feel that expectation as if I'm going to seriously disappoint somebody or seriously make somebody angry because I don't want to have sex this one particular time or several particular times, that is my trigger. And so I'm just shut down. Nope, I'm done. Don't want to do it. Don't want to talk to you. Don't want to nothing. So, and that was that was the trigger. I mean, that's what's kind of happened when I had sex for the very first time. So it was like that was expected. After we started having sex, that was expected. And we didn't do anything else. We didn't hang out. We didn't go out. We didn't do nothing. We just did that. So when I start to feel like that, even as a 38-year-old, that that's my trauma that I carry, and that's my trigger. So I was trying to explain that to somebody, and I was like, it's not that I'm like holding on to that, but I'm also choosing partners, and I'm getting myself in situations or finding myself in situations where that's happening. And I'm trying to figure out why that's happening. Like, what am I doing to make that happen? So like, it's not necessarily like the trauma, like the actual instance of the trauma, but it's how you relate to that and like how that kind of circles and cycles in your life is what I'm finding out about my own self.
So I'm going to
That's so. Oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
just a little bit. So I want you to that's just me. I want to affirm that you shouldn't downplay your trauma. There is such thing as big T trauma and little T trauma.
Definitely.
Big T trauma, you were raped, you were beat up. That's big T trauma. Earthquake, hurricane. Little T trauma, an experience happened that you weren't too happy with, whether someone yelled at you, screamed at you, made you feel a certain way. Little T trauma, but it's still trauma regardless. So yes, identify that as trauma. That's one. Two is another aspect of my work. This thing called EMDR. And this is, I'm going to go clinical real quick, then come back. But I love EMDR because this type of work allows me to help my clients tap into. So let's use you for an example. Thank you for opening yourself up. That'll be nice.
Unstable.
Relatively unstable.
Unstable, exactly.
Relatively compared to others, maybe.
Yes. But so in that EMDR session, I would, okay, there's a much deeper, but okay, I'll just surfacing. I would go back to your 15-year-old self. And in your 15-year-old self, I would go back to that experience. And I would have you reprocess with that experience. So it's like as your 30-some-year-old self, telling your 15-year-old self how to respond. Telling your 15-year-old self that it's okay to feel that way, affirming those things that would help your 30-something-year-old self help that 15-year-old self deal with those traumas a little bit more. It's some people liken it to hypnotherapy, but it's not really. It's just really taking you back in your head, in your mind, and you retelling that story as it happened to you, as you saw it as 15-year-old Andrea, but also is 30-some-year-old Andrea who's experiencing it with 15-year-old Andrea and telling 15-year-old Andrea how to reprocess it so that it makes sense. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's another beautiful modalities I have with sex therapists that I sit with my clients, not now because this whole pandemic thing, but I would sit with my clients and have them reprocess past traumas so that it doesn't really, again, I don't like getting over. It doesn't really help them get over it. It just helps them reprocess it contextually as an adult and not as a child who felt ashamed or who felt like they deserved it or who had all these things that build up over the lifetime and affect their current decision making. So that's the clinical side. I'm done.
Do you think that a lot of who we are as sexual beings as adults are, because I did not have that experience like Andrea had, like I remember my first time was with somebody I didn't know. It was just like, oh, okay. Because I was not curious about sex at all. I was just like, I was at a party, I was drinking, I was drunk, and I was like, let's just get this over with. I mean, everybody else has done it by now, and let's just get this over with. And like, I was totally plastered, but I remember it, and I know exactly who it was. I don't know him well. I know him, it was just like, whatever, like, let's just get this over with. And I was like, okay, fine, that's done, that's out of the way. But in my mind, I don't think it plays a role too much in who I am sexually today. But I'm like, do you think that those types of experiences, whether they seem like little T traumas or not, play a role in who we are sexually as adults? Like, because I'm like, I would not think that impacts me today.
No matter how benign the issue may be, I think that every every confrontation we have someone definitely affects who you are, some of your decision making. It doesn't have to have a negative effect on you, but it definitely affects you. So because I talk about energy a lot, and just how we tend to swap energies or be around somebody. You know how you just get a feel about somebody in your hairs on your arm, right, or in the back of your head, because you can just feel, well, that's your energy picking up on that person. So in your case, Tiff, you may not have been traumatized by that small t or affected whatsoever. It just happened, circumstance, whatever, it happened. And that's fine, but it also plays into who you are as a person. Not to say that person influenced you, but that experience influenced because of maybe that you have a different sentiment or attitude towards your own sexuality. You may be a little bit more, open to taking risks. You may be a little bit more open to exploration. Or you may be quite the opposite, because that time wasn't that spectacular for you. You may be a little bit more risk aversion. Like, let me not do this because last time I did something like this, in the back of your head, last time I did something risky like this, it sucked. But it may not manifest itself until you are afraid to get on the roller coaster.
Totally makes sense. And I'm glad you said that, because I wanted you to talk about, you had a conversation on your own Facebook page about the energy of sex. And I thought that was fascinating. And I just was like, oh, I mean, because that's real shit. Like, it is nothing more than energy in my mind. Like, it's all energy. Like, you don't even have to have like penetration. It's to be sexual. And that was something that you talked about. And I just was fascinated by that.
Yes. So technically, since, we brought up couples earlier, that was a saying. Well, I think I wrote it down. So I want to make sure I get this correct.
She wants to keep with the theme. She's like,
Sam has a lot to say about this. So we'll have her on next time. We'll have her.
She feels the energy. I feel you, Sam. But there was a saying. It says the exchange of energy doesn't work for one person if the other person dumps it on them. And you can compare. You can say whether it's a parent-child relationship, a partner, spouse, a boss, employee, like whatever relationship it is, whenever there isn't a mutual respectful exchange of energy, it's not going to work. And sexually, that's what I use as well. Is if your partner comes home and is, oh my God, this was my freaking boss sucks ass, and this happened, and they're just coming and dumping all this stuff on you. Dumping all this stuff, and then they expect you to, all right, baby, you want to get it on? Like, but hold on, you just gave me all your gunky energy. Now you want to have sex with me? Like, that doesn't work like that. It has to be a mutual exchange of energy.
Right, or the opposite. If you're feeling crappy, I'm not ready. You feel like getting it on. I feel like, yeah.
I feel like crap right now. But that's the beauty of couple sexuality, is that when there's a positive, it's a positive influence on each other's flow of energy. That makes any sense.
Makes total sense. You said, and I was like, go Cheryl. If you want to fuck your partner physically, you have to fuck them mentally. I was like, I was like, ooh, David let her say that.
I did have to get my attorney's permission to say that. I'm sorry, but I'm in Sorry, speaking of Dave, sorry.
Hi, Dave.
I told you, he's going. He's now, like, you knew what I was going to do. You've known I was going to do this all day. But yes, so that's possibly one of the toughest conversations to have with your partner, because, and this is how it all ties in together. So sometimes when there's a lack of desire, there's facilitators and inhibitors. And sometimes people think that if there's a lack of desire, you have to facilitate that desire by getting sex toys, by having a nice dinner, by doing things to pump up your sex life. But sometimes you need to have an inhibitor be present. And that means let's inhibit some things. Let's inhibit us bringing our phones into the bedroom. Let's slow down on some things. Let me get rid of, instead of me coming home doing the dishes and then putting the, kids together, let me inhibit some of that and slow some of that stuff down. And that goes into the mind fuck, because if you want me to be present with you, take some of these things off my plate. Whether it's
I think you just had all women in America feeling that, like
woo, and that to us is a mind fuck. Like, oh no, he didn't. Like, because it comes to us out of left field, and that inhibitor is a natural facilitator for us. That does that make
you don't
make
even
sense?
have to ask. You already know.
And
I'm passing you the collection plate, Cheryl. It's coming around for you, girl. We done passed it. It is full with coaching pills, not the change. Okay, we giving all the money.
And that's the sucky part of society, because we're taught like, oh, if you hit on her, if you do this, if you do all this, she'll want to fuck you. She'll want to do all this stuff. But that's not, want to ask yourself, who told you that? Because she didn't get it from a female. And has that worked for you so far?
And they're going to say yes. They're going to be like, yes, it has.
Because you were 19.
Yep.
Not 40.
Thank you. When you had real inhibitors going on. Exactly. So
do men ever turn off, Cheryl? Do they turn off?
Yes. They do. Let me tell you why they turn off. You mean like sexually? Do they ever get?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like so many conversations that I have with girlfriends, we're all like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And even something we were talking about before we started this, Andrea brought up, and it's like, it feels like men don't turn off.
Mm-hmm. They turn off when they are so in their head about getting to the end point. So, because sometimes they can have all these, I don't want to generalize, because some men are not like this.
Right.
But sometimes the end point is sex and orgasm. And if that end point isn't being achieved, it messes with their head. It messes with their desire, because they feel that they are less than, that they aren't doing what they're supposed to do, that they just feel whatever in their head. That's their turn off. Again, they're being mentally fucked, but it's going the opposite direction. They feel like they just can't do what they're meant to be, or they can't do what they're meant to be doing. They're not, whatever they tell themselves in their head. I'm not a guy.
Like, who is teaching men? Like, when I think about experiences, early on, I'm like, who taught you about sex? One of the reasons that I was not even like, I had sex so late was I wasn't curious, because my mother taught me like the biology of sex. Basically, she just gave it to me straight. It wasn't anything graphic. It was just like, this is what it meant. This is sex. I wasn't curious, and then I have often found myself thinking, who told you that? Who taught you that? Where did you learn that? And I feel like it's either other men or porn. But I'm like, no, a woman didn't teach you that. A woman didn't teach you
that. If I have to be cautious again, not all men are like this. But when ego is the issue, either their egos can't handle the truth that women gives them. They either think that only applies in this case, or they think, well, she knows what she's talking about. So there may be some females on the way who told him, like, hey, sweetie, won't you slow down? Or less teeth, or try this, or whatever the conversation was. And maybe he kept it to that one person, not realizing it could spread over a few other partners.
That's his style.
That's his style. Of course, society teaches that. Like, I mean, porn clearly teaches that. The non-friendly porn. Like, porn isn't always a bad thing if it can get you guys talking about some stuff. So I don't want to give porn a bad name.
And neither do I. I just want to make that clear as well.
But yes, but if porn it doesn't give the right message all the time. So men have to be real conscious about that, and they're not. They just, See, if there was I guess there is it's called psychology. I guess there is a study of man, but I don't understand some of their psyche. I really don't understand some of their psyche sometimes. This is why, again, I'm in this study because I want to that's why, sex nerd, because I want to study that. I don't get how some of and both females too, and and anyone else in between, because sometimes you can identify as somewhere else on that spectrum of non-binary identification. But whatever is in your head, that fascinates me, especially when it comes to sexuality. I want to know, well, why do you think that we all do this? Or why do you think we all like this? Or why do you think that felt good? Or why do you think that didn't feel like that's I know I can't touch everybody's mental like that, but I do want to learn and study those things.
Have you found in your practice that any differences between same-sex and different-sex couples in their ability to function with each other, given that because it is so mental and there's a shared experience with a same-sex couple versus an opposite-sex couple? Are there any differences that you found in some of the challenges that those two have?
Not sexually, not really. They still fight about the same stuff. Heterosexual couples fight about chores, dishes, who's going to walk the dog.
I'm talking more like functionally, like,
functionally,
yeah.
Not really, because pleasure is still pleasure. It's still pleasure. There's, I really can't think of any any hardcore differences with that. Whether you pleasure me with however you pleasure me. I almost got real unstable for a minute.
It's
okay. However I receive my pleasure, whether it's coming from he, she, they, it, me, you, I still receive pleasure. There's not really the differences for same sex, different sex couples mainly exist outside of the bedroom when it comes to society, when it comes to expectations, when it comes to sex roles. Outside of the bedroom is where the real differences are for that part.
I have a running joke with some of my gay and lesbian friends that that must be the key to having a good, healthy, wonderful relationship, is that you must have to be gay or lesbian, because all of the gay couples and lesbian couples I know, they've been together 10 plus years. They have, you ask them about their partner and their eyes just light up, and they never have a problem. I'm like, is this what I'm missing? Should I go to the other side? Because I can't seem to get it together with someone else.
Well, no, it goes back to where the differences are in society, because a lot of same-sex couples are forced to be more communicative than heterosexual couples, because they have so much other stuff that's against them. So they they have to talk this stuff out, because in some cases, if their family has ostracized them, that's all they have. All they have is each other. So a lot of times, not a lot, don't want to generalize, sometimes their flow of communication is a little bit better, because they were almost forced into that situation, so to speak, because society won't, do you understand? I sat at this bar today and someone gave me, I understand that, because they're forced, they're almost forced to talk it out, because they experience some of the same things being, same sex. And I do also want to say that it is a privilege in this society to be heterosexual, because we get certain treatments that the homosexual. So I have the privilege of being heterosexual, so I can't answer some of the issues that same-sex couples may face. And people don't realize that although, yes, I'm a Black female and I am a minority, there's still this society is still heteronormative. So if something happened to Dave, guess who gets his benefits? You can't say that's not going to be 100% guaranteed for some same-sex couples. If we were to go to wherever, a concert or to a church hand in hand, if people may stare, but that's because maybe we're Black, maybe, but that's,
Absolutely.
Same-sex couples don't have those privileges as heteros, because of that, I think sometimes they're almost forced into a cocoon to talk a little bit more about their stuff with each other, and because they both get it.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
which I think goes back to what you were saying, like early on, was just the whole mental thing, you know, fucking me mentally, you know, and I think they're able to do that because of that communication. And not just them, there are heterosexual couples that are able to do that mentally. But I want to ask you something about something you said earlier, because you were talking about
Uh-oh.
men and ego and orgasm, and why is it, and I'm asking you this for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
that there's such emphasis on orgasm as it relates to pleasure. Like, why is orgasm the ultimate measure of pleasure? And to me, I mean, I don't think that way. And so it's bewildering to me that people actually feel like, oh, you know, because I came, it was good. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That some of that can go back to how we were first taught about education. Depending on where your background is, I came up in a Catholic church, but I was raised Baptist. So sex, as it was introduced to me, was procreation. If you weren't with your partner, you shouldn't be having it. You can talk about the hypocrisy considering both churches on a whole nother day. But however, because of that, I think people have this mentality that when you're having sex, it has to have, again, a goal. And that goal has to be ejaculation, i.e. orgasm. Forget all that other stuff. I'm trying, it's funny because I'm trying to teach my daughter, they don't want to listen to me. My oldest one doesn't want to listen to me. My younger ones, they always leave the room. And I try to sometimes keep my oldest one there. But trying to teach them that sex is more than just orgasm. Sex is getting to know what feels good to you, what pleasures you, what doesn't feel good to you, what makes you uncomfortable, what risk you may be willing to take. That stuff we're not taught in school. We're taught STIs. We're taught, again, contraceptives. We're taught procreation. We're taught
Abstinence.
everything else. Thank you. Abstinence. We're taught everything else except for what feels good sexually, because for whatever reason, people don't want to admit it, despite everybody's doing it. People are uncomfortable saying it because they don't want to seem like, I don't know, they just don't want to seem like they're less than perfect. And then I think also it's easier this is just my own little thing. I think because we are in a misogynistic society, it's easier for men to put a check mark on his bedpost when, oh, she came, so my job is done. Mm-hmm. And I think that has been ingrained in our society, like, okay, she came, I'm done. But that's not it. Like, I like other stuff. There's other parts of me you can play with. Like, and for a lot of people, it's not about orgasm, but we don't get that because that's not taught to us, whether it's TV, whether it's videos, whether it's songs, whether it's TV shows. Like, how many times, we talk about this all the time, how many hot scenes have you seen where as soon as they come home from work, clothes are flying all over the place, he rams her up against the wall, and they instantly end up having sex?
Because that's real.
Right. Thank you. You don't see the, hey, baby, let me take off your work jacket for you and put your purse over here. I have a bottle sometimes, but I have a glass of wine here for you. You're unstable. I have a glass of wine for
We're
you.
in quarantine.
Exactly. I forgot about that.
I ain't driving anywhere.
Exactly. So in this case, you need a bottle. But yes, but how often do you see a scene that somebody takes care of their partner and gets him or her in the mood to actually, like, all right, let's be intimate. Let's do this thing called sex, but let's do it the right way. Let's pace ourselves and then actually enjoy the process instead of, all right, you came home, I'm gonna bang you, that's it, we're done. No, that's what they show you. That's, those are the hot scenes they show you on television. So that's just innately accepted throughout society. That's why I think the orgasm is so important. I mean, look, it is. But it's not the sole focus of intimacy and desirability.
And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up between what is sex and intimacy. I think of them as two different things. What's your take on that?
Almost definitely. I'm intimate with one of my girlfriends. Am I,
Right.
am I, are we
Right.
engaging in sex? No,
Right.
but we are in both a comfortable space within ourselves and our relationship to feel like she has my back. That's
Mm-hmm.
intimacy for me. I can be vulnerable to with her. That's intimacy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can share some things with her, and likewise, she can share some things with me, and it won't leave her. That's intimacy for me. I can be around her for hours, and we talk about the stupidest things, and can't
Yeah.
recall what it is the next day we talked about, but we
And
just
don't
sat there.
care.
And thank you, and don't
And don't
care.
care.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
That's intimacy for me. Sex, the physical aspect of it, there's some variations with that too. But yeah, there's two totally. Sex is not always. You can have sex with a stranger you know nothing about. People do that, and that's their sex. Was there some level of intimacy there? Yes, it was, because you still have to expose certain body parts and certain. You have to share your energy with that person. So there are certain bodies, certain parts of yourself that you have to share with them. Maybe not as intimate as a relationship as you may have with someone who knows you a little bit longer than that one night stand. So there are still levels of intimacy with sex, but yeah, it
It's
depends on.
different.
Yeah, it's very different, very different.
It's different. So we're all like sitting up in here quarantine. Some of us have our partners with us, some of us don't. Some of us, like myself, are just completely paranoid about having COVID-19 or
Mm-hmm.
passing it along. And, you know, any contact with my family is just like, I'm just so afraid of keeping that shit in my house. So,
Yeah,
like, and then there are some people who the shit came down and they were away from their partners or they were away from their, and then it's people
not the
out there
point.
with, you know, you said I don't judge. So it's people out there with side pieces and people they really care about, like how how do you encourage or like what's your take on cyber sex in COVID-19?
This is the most perfect time to experiment with cyber sex. I would not advise sexting because that's still out there and someone may have access to your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Or dick pics. So, yes, I would not
Nobody wants a
advise
dick
those.
pic.
Yeah, no one wants that.
No, I don't mind them, guys. I don't mind them. I might be the only woman in the world that doesn't.
There may be no. I'm sure there's some more. I'm
If you send me a
sure.
dick pic, I'm sending it to somebody else.
I mean, I'm not saying
That's the problem. See,
that,
that's the risk with dick pics. That's the risk with dick pics.
I don't have to worry about that right now, but back in the day, I'm like, oh,
Well, see, I know Zoom. Well, I don't want to put anybody. I don't want to advertise for anybody. I know there are some platforms
okay.
that allow you to share again with um, to share FaceTime with your partners. That as long as there's no risk of those platforms being
Hacked.
yes. Um, Now is the perfect time to really explore yourself to see what you like because you don't have the person next to you. So if it means, hey, I'm going to set my camera here, as long as it's not on recording mode, I would also caution that if you are going to go on these platforms, that other person is not recording them. You can talk about intimacy and trust all you want to, but something like that, I would highly recommend that you use some discretion on recording those sessions.
Everybody, you're welcome. This is how you get through COVID-19.
Yes, you yes, you face to face, and there's some creative ways, old school phone sex. Like, hey, I'm gonna call you up and I'm gonna, one hand rub it out, the other hand have my phone right here, and then you just tell me what you would do if you were here. So, and that also creates a whole nother level of intimacy because it's just you and that person and whatever your imagination can bring forth. COVID is definitely an interesting time because if you did have a side piece,
Oh, too bad for you.
yeah, you're out of luck. You're out of luck. You're out of luck. So if there was ever a time to be booed up with somebody, Who you trust sexually, now is the time, because you have nothing but time, at least for a week, it's on your hand.
Literally.
Literally. There also, I'm trying to think, I think there may be some sites may offer like free membership over this time period, because they understand sometimes you may need a little bit of inspiration for self stimulation.
How do you get people comfortable with that? And how do you get people to get over their ego about like, sexuality, being comfortable with themselves, or even with couples, like telling each other what they want or how they feel without the ego coming into place?
It's challenging, particularly with couples. I like to generally, at least for me, I like to have, sessions with the couple, and then I break them apart so that at least the one or the other doesn't have to feel like they have to put on airs in front of their partner. And they may be a little bit more freer to discuss some of their issues. And then I, with permission, just review what was discussed, so that if there are any issues that the ego is preventing them from discussing, we do it in a safe, non-judgmental space. But more so, it facilitates conversation, so that if there was an ego, maybe again it was all in his head. Maybe he thought that she didn't like this, or maybe he thought she was going to laugh at this, or she thought that he thought I was too big, or whatever ego plays up in your head. I try to get them to discuss them separately, so that when we bring them back together, like, no, I don't care about that. I like that. But I have to make sure that I have consent from both partners to discuss it in a safe space where neither one will feel judged. Ego is a tough one to get over, boy. Ego, because that can stem from something that happened when you were 3 years old, and some girl laughed at you because you wore a purple hat to daycare, and now, like, every time you see a purple condom, you just feel like somebody's gonna laugh at you. Like, that's just how crazy that stuff lasts. That's where I'm really thankful for my clinical background, because in that case, if purple triggers you like that, that's your small t, and it triggers you like that, we need to try to uncover, why is purple so affect you so? Like, why
Right.
can't you use a purple condom? I don't get it. But you pull back the layers and see, oh, because you were laughed at in when you were 3 years old when you had a purple hat on. That's why it causes you anxiety now. So sometimes it's just trying to uncover the layers and see what small t traumas or big T traumas may have happened, so that their ego does play, a bigger role than it should in their sexuality.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here's a question that comes up often in my mind anyway. So my first question is, do you see couples or people, are your clients do you have a diverse client background?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have white friends, I have black friends, and I feel like my white friends are freer and more open to sexuality, and like a lot of the men are more accepting. Like, I feel like there's like this stigma on black women particularly to be, not freaks, not open, not having this past, whereas white men, like, what'd you say?
Yeah, but only in public, because they
Right.
They want to free them.
Right. Whereas I have a white friend who, she talks in front of her husband about past escapades, and he's just like, whatever, she's with me now, and he just, he doesn't feel any sort of, or he doesn't express it any sort of feeling about it. Do you find any of that? Like, that's my observation with my own circle, is that there seems to be more of a stigma with black couples, black women, about black women, like, where we are less free to have had a past, if you will.
Get comfortable with this one. Surprisingly enough, no.
Really?
I've seen, and I have a pretty diverse client base, whether it's cultures, ethnicity, ages. I honestly cannot say that I see. Again, I'm in Atlanta, so I have a lot of transients who may be from other places. No. Again, I don't want to put anyone on blast, but I don't see where any, I don't see anyone's, I don't see any of my Black clients having more hangups or having more stigmas or feel more stigmatized because of their race or just because of whatever reason.
Is there
I'm
potential?
thinking, yeah, like I don't want to put them on blast, but no, they, look, I have, some people are just as sexually free with themselves, Black versus white versus Indian. Um,
That's
so,
fascinating to me because I feel like that. Do you find that, Andrea?
Yeah, I feel like religion would probably. I've always thought that religion would play a big part of that. Like, you know, first lady in the streets, sex worker in the bed. Like very like this kind of dual reality type person, and
mhm.
who Black men want because they seen their moms be very like, especially like if their moms were single moms, so like they only date, they didn't date because they were raising children, and then when they did date, nobody knew about it, so like
Yeah.
I kind of just all always assumed that it was a religious type lens on it, I guess, but
And
maybe not.
and it's funny you say that because as a counselor, I taught a long time ago, I have to separate my worldview from that of my clients. And to your point, I was raised in a, as I said, a very religious background. I felt that I was learned to see women one way.
Hmm.
If you're at home, if you want to be, hanging from the chandelier, do that in your home. But do it with, like, I was just taught differently sexually. So I was prepared to experience clients who I thought looked like me. Um, I was prepared to. Yes, I was surprised that people had different variations on how they were on how religion played a part in their sexuality. Um, I was, especially in the South. I figured, again, the whole Southern Bells thing. And if you're in the South, you're this genteel little lady and you have to present this. And oh, no, we don't do that. Oh my gosh, what are you talking about?
Hmm.
But I was pleasantly surprised that there are some sexually assertive Black women in Atlanta.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
It's awesome, and I believe it. I feel like that's a little bit. I don't know Atlanta like that, but my perception of Atlanta is this, and the people I know from Atlanta are strong Black women.
Hmm.
So that's my view. And me being from the Midwest, I feel like there is a lot of judgment, there is a lot of expectation on us. While there is that Southern Belle, there's also those Southern belles are also quite outspoken. They're quite, confident. Whereas I feel like the Midwest is tamer, and there's an expectation of us to be tamer, and and being in Detroit is also very small. Like, it's a big city, but it's very small, and people talk and people want to, oh, I heard so and so did such and such with so and so, and
Hmm.
that automatically is like one big circle and click. So
And, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I
no,
also feel like, where Detroit is a very metropolitan city, and like you said, Tiffany, is super small, but it's also, I think, very country still in a lot of ways. Because obviously I'm not saying that to like as something that's bad, but I'm saying that like, if you ask any Black person in this city where their grandma came from or where their mama came from,
there's
it
no postcode.
it's it, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
There's no.
it's Mobile, it's
Yep.
Yeah,
Arkansas, it's
somewhere
some
down
little
south.
town in Mississippi. Like, so like, even though this is a very like metropolitan city and whatever, but like in the family sense, you still talking to Big Ma, and Big Ma is still around, and she's still from Mobile, and she still, have taught you or taught your brothers and sisters or your wife or your husband. Those people are still influencing the people that we're dating and the people we're marrying and coupling with and all of that. So like that old school, Southern type way is still here, because we still have like grandparents and uncles and aunts and cousins that are very much, down from down south.
But the funny thing, Andrea, is they were on some shit. It's a
They
lot of
also
secret baby.
We're on some shit.
It's a lot of secret babies. It's a lot of baby daddies.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of that. I know in my family, my dad and I had a conversation while he was sick, and I was like, oh, so it's a baby. Then he's like, oh, this is your grandmother's other child that, I was like, oh, okay. So Miss Self-Righteous had 3 baby daddies, so meanwhile, she's telling me and judging me, but it's 3 of them running around here, or so-and-so's not so-and-so's daddy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the funny thing is, I think they imparted things on us that they were trying for us not to repeat cycles, but in their own marginally educated way. And I say that as factually, not so much judging, and I am judgy, but they just didn't have that education. But they put shit on us. They put shit on us, and then they put shit on their sons, who then put shit on us as women. And then, so 2 things that I wanted to touch on, Cheryl, because you have a bunch of sisters, like I have a bunch of sisters, and then Andrea is an only child. Do you feel like having sisters played any role in you being more comfortable with who you are sexually, and being able to have somebody to have conversations with? I know for me, with Lauren and Olivia, we were able to talk openly about stuff and teach each other things and counsel each other on things that, while we had a very open mother, like too open, we didn't want to talk to her about that shit, but we could talk to each other about that. And that helped us to some degree develop some comfort in who we are. And I said, okay, I'm not weird, or I'm not strange, because I could talk to somebody that I trust wholly.
Yeah. So I am 8 years older than my next sister. So not so much as when we were younger, did I have that out. I think what helped me along my trajectory was a combination of, as I got older and I saw my sisters get older in life and their relationships, and at the same time I started having daughters. I think it was a little bit of both, and I'm in this marriage and I'm learning about myself sexually. I think that they may have been earpieces. You can ask them if they actually listened to me or not, but as I was getting older, there were a few little nuggets of information, but it wasn't a full-fledged conversation. Whereas now we're having a little bit more, because everybody's in their 20s, 30s, 40s, so we all get it now, and they may actually be more prone to listen. So we're actually having more competent conversations, shall I say, about relationships and what to look for in partners and dating. But again, I have to pop, because I haven't dated in 20. Oh my God, 20.
Be careful.
But so I also have to be aware of what words I'm saying, because it's not applicable to me. It's not like, I can't tell you how to, what is it, swipe right or whatever they're doing now. I know nothing about that, but I do discuss that with my daughters about, hey, when I met your dad, I was looking for this, that, and the other. Will they listen? We'll see. I've had discussions with my daughters about Egypt, and they hate this one. And I'm like, I hope they're going to hate me for this. But I've had conversations with my daughters about, hey, you need to figure out what you like first. Why don't you try to figure out how to pleasure yourself first before you go into a relationship with somebody else? So little things like that, I think having sisters help, because I wish that as an older sister, I would have imparted that knowledge on my younger sisters, but I didn't know. But as I'm learning and I get older, I'm telling my sisters, yes, hey, look for this in partners, whatever. But at the same time, I'm doing that with my children, with the hopes that, they pass on to theirs. But again, wishing that I would have done that for my sisters as they were coming up. I don't know, again, if they would have listened to me, because I was the older big sister who thought she knew it all and whatever else. But I think having the sisters and the daughters definitely helped assert me in this field a little bit more, because I do want my young women to embrace their sexuality, to know there's nothing's wrong with pleasuring yourself, nothing's wrong with pleasure, period. Nothing's wrong with asking for it if you want it. Nothing's wrong with not wanting it. Nothing's wrong with wanting it from multiple people. Like, nothing, as long as it's consensual, as long as it's safe, as long as it's, you take the precautionary risk, like it's not the precautionary
measures.
Yes. Measures, thank you for the risk. But as long as you take care of yourself, like, nothing's wrong with sexuality. So that's helped me with my career, because I would have loved to impart that onto my sisters when I was younger. So I'm hoping that, each one teach one, and that they continue to pass along to theirs.
And I know that with Eric, my oldest son, that was one of the first conversations I had with him, as a teenager, was, why don't you take care of yourself? You don't need to be worried about everybody else. You can go in your room and do whatever you need to do, hoping that, he would be more comfortable. But I was in a different situation with him, hoping that he would be more comfortable with doing that. But then I do wonder, like, Andrea, with you having been an only child, like, who do you have those conversations with?
Yeah.
So, still waiting on the birds and the bees talk with so, gonna have that at any time now. I feel like I'm of age, and she's gonna start, having that talk with me. But honestly, I mean, I say that as a joke, but honestly, that's the truth. We didn't talk about sex. We didn't talk about anything, like, period, sex, relationships, like, literally nothing. So I kind of flubbed it, just like, oh, well, I guess this feels right, or this doesn't feel right, and I don't quite know why, but I'm lucky to have my best friend Tiara, who I met in high school, but like the relationship she has with her mom is very open and very, like, they talk about and have talked about sex and relationships and all of that. So even though I wasn't super close to her mom when we first met in high school, but her mom's advice trickled down through Tiara to me, and I end up getting it. Like, I end up getting, like, when I had that first experience in high school and talked to Tiara about it, like, I'm 100% sure I didn't have, like, the vocabulary and the language to really express what I was feeling and how I was feeling, but she was able to, like, as a 15-year-old herself, was able to kind of, like, coax me through that. And then obviously now, because we're still good friends and it's been 20 something years now, like, we still just talk very much about everything. And she's quite, like, she was married for 15 years. She's very, comfortable and open in her sexuality. And so, like, we are literally yin and yang. She's tall and dark skinned, I'm short and light. Like, we are literally opposites in every sense, but we come together to have this, like, really, like, sisterly bond, and things that I fall short on, she has, and vice versa. And it kind of speaks to what Cheryl was talking about the intimacy of girlfriends, sisters, whatever. Like, I totally feel that way about her, and totally feel like she has my back. And she's the person I talk to when I have, issues about relationships and sex and all of that kind of stuff, because she's kind of been, I guess, like a surrogate mom, which is weird to say, but yeah.
It feels like that. It's like that with
Yeah.
us, like with women, and I think that that's a whole other conversation to have about that
Mhm.
that bond with women and even with men. They have something that we don't have, and I look at it and appreciate it. But Cheryl, let me ask you this, because this was something we had talking about, and that is, what do you find, whether as a therapist or as a woman, is the key or the ultimate? Is it love or is it chemistry? Like, what is it that makes good sex? Is it love or chemistry? And does one beget the other?
Depends on what you're looking for. Um, so you can have some awesome chemistry with an asshole that you hate, and the sex could be incredible.
I'm like,
I think you get that played out again, Andrea, because I think we
you
all
just
know
look
that.
past it. Everybody
We
knows
all
about
know
something.
that.
Yeah.
And I
So
think that goes for both sexes.
yeah.
Right?
So I think if your goal is to get your rocks off in a hard, explosive, exciting way, then you know who needs love? You have the chemistry, and to be I mean, again, there's so many different variations of
Mm-hmm.
sexuality that you may not need that love. If your goal is a long-lasting relationship, fidelity, um, having intimacy, I think that's where love beats out with or was it love beats out chemistry? Because I think naturally, if love exists in those compartments, the chemistry will just flow free anyway. So I guess to answer my own question, um, I think love beats out, because if all the components surrounding love are there, the chemistry is just second nature. It's it exists there anyway. But if you want just hardcore, like just make me come hard as hell, then the chemistry would be there. But again, you don't necessarily need the love for the chemistry part of it. So it really depends on what your goal is.
And
Again,
either
I
one is
don't
fine.
judge either one. Either one is fine. And that's another issue. Either one is fine as long as you own it. Own it. If you know that he's a jerk, you know that she's an asshole, you know that this person is manipulative, but the chemistry's there,
Do
don't
you?
hurt yourself. Thank you. Do you, but don't hurt yourself with these expectations that you may fall in love with that, because it's the type of love that you really want for yourself. As long as you go into the relationship knowing what this person is going to give you and what you want, and you make that quite clear to yourself, like, I want this, but I'm okay that love may not be involved, but chemistry is there. I'm good with that. Just own it. Just own it, so you don't have any heartbreak. If it naturally progresses towards love, there's something different. But if you just go into it knowing, like, this is what I'm going into this for, this is my goal, be true to yourself, claim it, and do it.
so
Go do
that
you.
so that brings up a question. And this is a question I had on my Facebook a couple years ago, and because I hear a lot of women talk about, well, if sex was all the guy wanted, I wish he would have just said that. I wish he would have just came out and said that, or let his expectations be known. Or and so I asked the question to the women, to my friends list, to the women on my friends list, like, okay, so let's say you do have a guy that comes out and said, and or you meet somebody and that is his program, that's what he's on. How would you how could a man approach you in that way and have it not be offensive? Because I feel like even if a man was to say, hey, I'm really just about having sex with you, I don't really like, I'm not trying to be in a relationship and I really just want to have sex with you, I feel like a lot of women would be offended by that. And like, I don't know, like I feel like women feel like maybe the honesty is the thing, but I feel like at least some women I know would be like, I still don't want that. even if they do want that, but because the man has said it, they feel like, oh no, I can't agree to that because that's not what I'm supposed to do or something like that.
That's why, again, I said if they're true to themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that's they have, because some women are just as assertive as some men in that aspect. Like, hey, I just want to come one and done for the night, and that's it. That's all I want. Also, so
Mm-hmm.
there are those rarities where it works out. Where, oh, that's all you want. That's all I want too. On the other end, you have some people who see it as a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the heartbreak comes. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I know I can flip you. I can make you want me. Like, no, boo boo, don't set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Like he already told you, or she already told you what they were coming into with
Mm-hmm.
this relationship with, if you want to call it a relationship. They already told you, I just want sex and that's it. So a little bit of it is like, again, how true are you being to your sexual voice? Like, if you want more and you know you want more, you need to say, again, be true to it. Like, I can't deal with this right now.
Right.
Don't try to change him. Don't try to challenge him. Don't think think your vagina is going to turn him out. Like, oh, once you get a taste of this, he's going to want, like, you may have some good stuff down there, but he already told you what he was looking for.
And I think on the flip side of that, because I remember reading the comments, and there's still this misconception that of men that women can't facilitate those kind of relationships, like that they can't, that women must want something more, and they must want a relationship, and they can't just want sex, and they can't just literally want it one time and be like, yeah, okay, I had that and I'm done, which is also false. So like I feel like sometimes men and women are like, we're coming from the same place, but we're just not speaking the same language a lot of times. Because I mean, there's definitely women who are just like, no, that's literally all I want, and I'm
That's
good.
because their boys tell them different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Because
what their boys tell them. That's what they talk about when we're not around.
Really?
I don't really know, but I do a little bit. That's what they talk about. Who did what? Nah, homeboy hit it, like, but it could have been that exactly what Andrea just said. Well, let me see what this is about, and I'm over it.
And I'm over it. I got it, so I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Or your boy was trash.
That's always a possibility.
Yikes.
That's always a possibility.
What it do, boo?
Well, right. I think that's
nothing. You do nothing.
One of my biggest frustrations is that when people don't assertively say what you want, you're missing out on so much. If you want a one-night stand, male, female, or in between, just say, this is what I want. If you don't want that, don't go to someone who wants the total opposite of what you want. Like, I think, yes, Andrew, to your point, sometimes we do speak the same language, but we have different settings on what we're saying. So it may come out one way, but we're saying the same thing. Change your setting to a different station and you'll pick up on what I'm saying. I'm telling you the exact same thing you're telling me, but whether it's egos, whether it's expectations, whether it's, different goals in mind, all these barriers get in the way of the lines of communication freely flowing back and forth.
And that doesn't have to be for couples either. That can be for people who are out there just,
doing their thing.
Like, communication isn't just limited to couples. I think that gets lost a lot. Would you say, like, I think that gets lost a lot. Like, you can be single and communicative.
Yes.
Like,
And I mean, I think as the resident single person here, I think I would argue, I mean, obviously everybody knows that communication is important, like in a relationship, in a couple, in a marriage. But I would think that to even set up that, though, like it's kind of, for me, I would think even a little bit more important to even have it when you're not dating and you're trying to get to the dating part and you're trying to get to a couple part possibly, because that kind of sets how you communicate in the dating or friendship to dating to couple to fiance to marriage to whatever, whatever your trajectory is, like it's got to be set up in the friendship or the dating realm first. Like, so if you can't have it there, like if you can't say to somebody like, yeah, like I don't like this, or I really like that, or I don't like when you do that, but I really like to do that to you, like, then that's like, what are you even doing? What are you even doing?
And Cheryl, like I think, or I, I wonder, like, when do you have that conversation? Because I think that there are some people who are on the same wavelength when we talk about chemistry. Like they can say, like they just automatically know, I can say this to this person. Like I know what this person is about. But if there's a difference between love and chemistry, and there's more love than chemistry, and you're waiting for that chemistry to evolve, then when do you introduce to that person, like, I'm not about that, or I am about that? Like, at what point do you say, I know this is our first time together, but let me tell you what I'm really into. Like, like, at what point do you say, I know it doesn't look like you're into that, but this is what, because you're being so nice and gentle with me, or you're being so wild and extra with me, and I'm not into, like, when do you say that? When and how do you say that when you are, I mean, because we're adults. We might have sex on the first date. We might have sex a month later, but a month is still new. So when do you say that to that person? Because you've only known this person a month, and now you're about to screw, and the first time might be awkward, or the first time is going to be the bomb, but then you want to make sure that it progresses into something that you both like.
So the first thing is that you don't want to say it immediately after sex in the bed. You don't want to say, that was okay, but next time, can you try? In the bed after it's all been said and done is definitely not the place to have that conversation. Talk
Over
about
dinner?
Over a nice glass of wine, not a bottle, but it's been recommended over just a place where you feel a little bit less restricted in your conversation, where you don't feel, I had so much fun last night. But there was this thing that you did that if you could go to the left breast instead of the right breast, that would, I want to try that out. Or, you were so close, or you were so close. You were so close to get me to my orgasm. I was almost there. Oh my God, it felt great. Why did you stop? You should have kept going. You were awesome. You were amazing. Just more affirmative words instead of like, what took you so long? Why'd you stop when you stopped? No, it's not why it took you so long. It's, you know what? Oh my God, I love that session. Like it just seemed to just flow naturally. You were digging me, I was digging you. I liked the flow of it. Baby, but you know what? I orgasmed so hard, my stomach was hurting, and we just slow it down a little bit. Like an hour is a little bit too much for my body. Can we just slow it down to 30 minutes? Like just softly have that conversation with them after the do has been done, but in a way that affirms what they did correctly, and make it more about you and not about them. But I liked how you did that. I like this. Next time, I would like to experience this here, or I would like to, because you did such an awesome job doing that there. Can I experience that in this body part or this here? Or can you, like, just, some finesse. Some people are very blunt, and I don't know what to tell them. Like you can't just say, I don't know how to help them with their word choice. Some people just tell it like it is. I can't help that one. Maybe I get them a doll that's anatomically correct, and they just put a pin here. So when I work with couples, I do have questions that I have them ask of each other and themselves to come into that realization of what felt good and what didn't feel good, and what can be changed or what can be taken out of their rotation. There are, it's something as simple as, let's see, what's one of my questions I ask? So, you can ask your partner you're dating, hey, when was the best sex you had? Like outside of me, because I know I'm fantastic, yes. But of course, when was the best sex you had and what made that sex so fantastic? And then hope they ask you the same thing. If they ask, if they don't say, you're going to ask me, well, I'll tell you what made my sex. And then hopefully you can like piecemeal them the information so that they like, oh, so when she had a fantastic time, she liked when so-and-so did this to her, but
That's
I
a
didn't do
dangerous question, Cheryl. I feel like without a counselor, without a mediator, that could be that's a bomb waiting to go off.
It opens up the lines of communication. You can learn
some
real
people will
fast.
communicate more than others.
If that's what you want, it depends on what you want.
Right. And I think that's important.
Again, you got to state what you want. If you really want to go down that rabbit hole with somebody because you want to stay with this relationship and it's important for you to know their sexual preferences, and it's important for them to know what you like sexually, you open that line of communication. Because you sitting there trying to guess or vice versa, it's just going to be sexually frustrating for the both of you.
Right. And what if, because you had posted a piece about it's boring. So what if your partner is just, and actually, sorry, I'm boring. what if your partner is more reserved than you are, or how do you but you love them, how do you reconcile that?
So the first part is to realize that it takes two to tango. So although you may feel like he or she is boring, you may have to ask yourself a hard, long question and see your part in the relationship, and say, well, am I putting myself in a space mentally to be receptive or to be a giver of sexual pleasure? It really is one of those things where and this is what people don't like to do. Sometimes you have to, again, take your ego out of it and ask yourself, because it starts with me. We can't depend, although it's helpful, we can't depend on somebody else to satisfy our sexual desires, because no one knows us like we know ourselves. So yes, it's nice to have a partner. You guys can exchange your flow of desirability and eroticism, and it's nice. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, because it starts up here. So it's up to you to know exactly what you like, what feels good to you. So that's a tough question about, I'm bored or I am boring. Why is that so? What parts of my psyche am I not communicating to my body parts? Like, am I just going through the motions? Did I have a long day? Are we just doing routine sex? So it's just expected of us to just lay down and do this? Like, what role do I have in this? And just again, you got to face the fact sometimes. Yes, your partner it may be a regular thing. It may be, well, if it's so regular, what am I doing to promote irregularities? Like, if I get in the same bed with the same scarf on, of course it's going to be the same sex, because
you want to call people out, I see.
Okay, I mean, that's real.
Well, because again, in sexuality,
you want to make people feel bad today.
Sexuality goes, but no. Okay, so in his case, if he's getting inside the same bed with the same little dirty T-shirt on, the same boxers on, the same socks on, he's wondering, well, why isn't it spicy? Why can't she sit on it? Why can't she do this? Well,
she worked out today. Her thighs hurt.
But he has to ask himself, what am I doing different to help promote that sexual flow between us? So yeah, we have the scarf, but he has the T-shirt and boxers that he wears the same. Like, you have to ask yourself those questions. If I want to spice it up, if I want a more spicy marriage or relationship or a sexual life, what's my take in? I'm invested in this too, because it's not on them to get you off. It's again, it starts in your mind. That's why she has to be mind fucked. That's why because it starts up here. We can have our own innate desires because we know what we like, but if it's just the same old ho-hum, those desires going to sit right here in our head and go through, all right, I have 2 loads of laundry to do tomorrow. I have, to take the chicken out tomorrow, because there is nothing you're doing to stir up those desires that's already up here. Believe me, they're here. They are here, but they're dormant because I'm worrying about, again, do I have enough chicken for the grill tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
You cook.
There are no restaurants for me to go to. What restaurant am I go to right now?
Go curbside.
They don't believe in social distancing curbside over here. So.
Oh, well, that's that
Yeah,
Southern hospitality. Y'all like to.
yes.
I'm a hugger too, but I am totally a city girl. But Cheryl, maybe next time you can come and talk to us about unleashing those desires. I sat in my closet trying to come out of the closet, and
Unleashing your desires takes a lot of questions.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work, because people they're so pressed under responsibility, and this is how I live my life, and this is my normalcy, that those desires they do need to be awakened. And then again, there's certain questions, certain things you can do to awaken those desires.
If you were to just leave us with 1 or 2 glitter pieces of wisdom about exploring our sexuality and embracing our sexuality, what is that?
Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, whether it's with a partner or with yourself. Sometimes we tend to be our worst critic, and we tend to be more judgy of ourselves than other people are. So vulnerability can be a solo practice as well as a team effort. Don't be afraid to just open yourself up and be vulnerable. I wish I could say it simpler than that, but that's at the core of some of these sexual issues. People just are afraid to just call what they're feeling.
I think that's quite simple. I think it's just that we make it more complex.
Yeah.
Do you do telehealth? Do you do?
I do.
Because you're in Atlanta, we're in Detroit. So if our friends want to find you and look you up, can they do that? Where can they find you?
So only if they were in Georgia. I can only, because I'm licensed in Georgia. I can do that telehealth wise. So a few ways to find me. Actually, I have a friend, you talking about the podcast, or Facebook Live rather. Every now and then we Jaded Sex, because she does jade therapy where she detoxes the body from toxins. Mm-hmm. And she used jade therapy for that, and then the sex part. So the whole thing is we talk about different things, that different blockages or different toxins that may prohibit the sexual flow of energy. So we do that on Facebook every now and then. That's Jaded Sex. I also have a website, www.Real Sex Therapy Talk. That's realsextherapytalk.com. I can be found there. And something that is my baby that I haven't had a chance to do for a while is called Hotel Sex Talk. And that's when myself and a few friends, no more than 10, we have a all out talk about sex. We have, I can't say it, like we
need a hotel sex talk.
I know, I would love to.
We got 2 Pisces and a Leo all in one place. We need a hotel sex talk.
I would love to, but it's so intimate and it's such an awesome setting for us to be in. We have drinks, we have food, I have gift bags. The gift bags are always nice. And we just really talk about sex, questions, education, facilitating concerns, ideas, suggestions. I missed that. So hopefully we were in the process of going to different cities. Chicago was one.
Come to Detroit. Next time you're in Detroit, I met you in Detroit. So Andrea.
Detroit.
We're doing it next time you come to Detroit.
So that may not be for 2 years.
Depending on what Michigan is doing.
Exactly.
Right. But Dave to get his shit together, and
I'm telling you, man, they don't even know what Detroit is just, oh my God, it's just hit up something awful. But
you tell him to send his Dave Walker, Send your wife here. We'll do it. You can stay at my house. He doesn't have to pay for a hotel. We can do this.
Days outside.
That's because you got nice weather.
Well, yes, and yes. So it's
But
like
hotel sex
78
talk.
degrees. Hotel sex talk, which I hate. I don't do anymore because of this. And then I am of course a therapist at Globecore. But if you go to realsextherapytalk.com, it directs you to both hotel sex, to the Jaded Sex, and to the counseling services part of it. I'm also on Facebook, Real Sex Therapy.
And we'll post all that.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
that.
Any more questions you guys have of me?
Andrea, I think you've been awesome, Cheryl.
Yes, amazing.
Will you come back? That's our question. Will you do this again with us?
Whatever. I can talk about sex every day, all day. And I'm trying to keep it as clean as possible because I haven't been drinking. Nope, can't do that. Because if I drink, then it goes sideways real fast.
Well, next time you got to drink.
Drink.
Next time you got to drink.
Next
time you got to drink. So sooner than later.
Well,
we're quarantined. What else do we have to do?
If I stay quarantined for 3 more weeks, that may be the end result. I may have to.
3 weeks. We give you 3 weeks and a bottle. Show your positivity water.
Positivity. This keeps me positive doing this whole quarantine mess. And hydrated. I got to stay hydrated.
That nice
also, sex. Stay hydrated. It's a physical activity. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you, Tiffany. If you're having sex, please stay hydrated. It is a physical activity, and it does burn calories.
Exactly how many calories are we talking here?
It depends. If you're doing reverse saddle cowgirl, it may be about 250 calories. If you're doing missionary style, I'm
like, pick up, Cheryl. We're talking about that next time.
I will look that up and have it prepared for you, I promise.
And next time we want charts and visuals and
So I have some charts and visuals. I don't know if this show is ready for my visuals.
We ready for visuals.
Absolutely are.
Don't say that. You watch what you ask for because you just may get it.
Putting it out there, that's what we want.
Okay.
We that's what we want. This is not PG-13. We are adults.
So I could bring the toys and everything and like talk about those
all of it
in detail.
All of it in detail. Tell us what we need to hear. We maybe we can even have sound effects in a DJ or something.
Well, I have a box full of lube that I passed out at my hotel sex talk. So I will have my different lubes here with me as I go through my different sex toys.
Let's go for it. Let's go. We're gonna schedule it. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Tiffany, my Pisces and Leo friend.
Absolutely. You know, we are just completely compatible as girlfriends, so we love having you.
Awesome. I love being here. Thank you, guys. This has been a blast.
Thank you.